The eviction notice was crisp, corporate, and taped to my door like a slap. Renovation, it said. Property will be vacated in 30 days. The signature at the bottom was his. Marcus Thorne, property manager. Not even the owner. Just the slick, smug middleman in a bad suit who'd started showing up 6 months ago, smelling of cheap cologne and cheaper ambition. I knew what renovation meant. It meant my $800 a month one-bedroom, with the leaky faucet and the view of the brick wall, was about to become a $2,500 a month luxury loft, with vinyl flooring and an accent wall. It meant me, my cat, and 5 years of carefully built stability were being priced out of our own home. My name is Kai, I'm a freelance coder. I work in sweatpants, live on coffee, and my office is my couch. To Marcus Thorne, I was just another faceless millennial renter, easily replaced by someone with a trust fund and a taste for exposed ductwork. He'd made that clear. When I'd asked about fixing the perpetually dripping shower, he'd smirked. You want upgrades? You gotta pay for the upgraded units, pal. This is a budget building. Budget. His favorite word for people I can push around. What Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have known from his superficial scans of my bank statements, which showed just enough to qualify for the rent, was that my freelance coding wasn't just patching together websites for small businesses. It was designing proprietary, elegant algorithms for high-frequency trading firms, the kind of work that pays not in hourly rates, but in eye-watering bonuses and equity shares. I lived simply by choice. My money didn't sit in a checking account. It lived in a quiet, complex network of investments and assets. I wasn't poor. I was invisible by design. The eviction notice changed the design. Rage is a cold fuel. It burns clean and sharp. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I sat on my couch, my cat purring in my lap, and I started to research not just Marcus Thorne, the whole ecosystem. The Elmwood Terrace complex was owned by a numbered LLC, which was a shell for a larger property group based in Delaware. Standard stuff for keeping liability at arm's length. But every wall has a crack. I found it in the public tax records. The property group was heavily leveraged. They'd bought Elmwood and a dozen other value-add properties their term for places to evict and jack up rents using short-term interest debt. They were a house of cards waiting for the wrong gust of wind. They weren't renovating to be nice. They were renovating to refinance. Their entire scheme depended on emptying buildings like mine to boost their appraised value. A plan didn't form so much as crystallize, whole and perfect in my mind. They wanted to play Monopoly with people's lives. Fine, but I wasn't going to just pay the rent. I was going to buy the board. I made 2 calls. The first was to my lawyer, a razor-sharp woman named Anya who handled my NDAs and who had a particular glee for corporate warfare. Anya, I said, my voice calm, I need you to set up a new holding company, something anonymous, and I need you to find me every shred of debt attached to the Urban Horizon Property Group. Every loan, every lien, every paperclip they've mortgaged. The second call was to my oldest friend, Ben, who worked in commercial real estate. Penance Ben, I said. Hypothetically, if someone wanted to acquire a distressed, over-leveraged property group quickly and quietly, how would they do it? He laughed. You buying a skyscraper, Kai, something like that. I gave Marcus his 30 days. I played the part. I looked at apartments online, smaller, dingier, farther out. I let him see the stress on my face when he did his final inspection, smirking as he noted wear and tear that would eat my security deposit. He loved it, the power, the little kingdom he managed. Tough break, man, he said, not sounding sorry at all. Market's crazy, but hey, maybe you'll find a nice place further out. The dismissal was complete. I was being erased, and he was the eraser. Meanwhile, Anya and Ben worked in the shadows. The holding company, Kestrel Holdings, was born. Ben identified the weakest link in Urban Horizon's debt chain, a $15 million bridge loan from a regional bank that was coming due in 45 days. The bank was getting nervous. Urban Horizon's renovation timeline was slipping, which meant their projected valuation for refinancing was fantasy. The bank wanted out. Kestrel Holdings, via a series of intermediaries, offered to buy the debt, not the property, the debt, at a slight discount. To the bank, it was a way to cut their losses. To me, It was the master key. Once you own the debt, you own the leverage. You can call it in, you can foreclose, or you can offer a deal. The day before my official move-out date, the paperwork was signed. Kestrel Holdings now held the note that the entire Elmwood Terrace renovation scheme was balanced upon. I was no longer the tenant being evicted. I was the ghost in the machine. The silent partner who could pull the plug. On my last official day as a tenant, I didn't pack a box. I put on the one good suit I owned. I walked down to the management office. Marcus was there, leaning back in his chair, talking loudly on the phone about curb appeal. He saw me and held up a finger, finishing his call with a smug, "Yep, another one bites the dust." He hung up. "Hi, keys." I didn't hand him keys. I handed him a single sheet of paper. It was a formal letter on Kestrel Holdings letterhead. He glanced at it, confused. "What's this?" "Your forwarding address goes to the post office, not to me." "Read it," I said, my voice flat. His eyes scanned the page. I watched the color drain from his face in real time, like a time-lapse of a corpse. His smugness melted into confusion, then disbelief, then a cold, stomach-dropping horror. This is a notice of debt acceleration and an offer to acquire," he stammered, looking up at me. "From Kestrel. What is this? Who are you?" I let a slow, cold smile touch my lips. It was a smile he'd never seen before. It wasn't the smile of a defeated tenant. It was the smile of a predator who'd been watching from the tall grass. "I'm Hattie," I said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "And as of 9 a.m. this morning, I'm your new landlord. We need to talk about your rent. It's about to double." Watching Marcus Thorne's face implode was a better rush than any line of perfect code I'd ever written. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish tossed onto the dock of his own cheap desk. The paper trembled in his hand. This is a joke, a forgery. You're a coder. You live paycheck to paycheck. I live efficiently," I corrected, my voice still calm. "You, on the other hand, have been managing this property into the ground for a holding company that is now, technically speaking, bankrupt. Their debt is my debt, and I'm calling it in." He scrambled for his computer, fingers fumbling on the keyboard, pulling up emails, internal memos. His eyes widened as he saw the confirmations from corporate, the panic-stricken all-hands memo about unfavorable debt acquisition and an urgent liquidity event. The digital proof mirrored the paper in his hand. His kingdom was made of sand, and the tide had just come in with my name on it. You can't do this," he finally blurted. A pathetic attempt at authority. "It's already done," I said, taking a seat in the client chair without being asked. I leaned forward. "Now, let's discuss your employment and your lease."
"My lease."
He choked out. "Yes, the one for this management office space. And your own apartment 2-Unit 4B, the renovated one with the premium view you moved into last month. All leases are now assets of Kestrel Holdings, and I'm reviewing all terms." The rest of that day was a symphony of schadenfreude, conducted by me. I had Anya on speakerphone. We went line by line. Marcus's salary was tied to performance bonuses based on renovation timelines and rent increases. Since the renovations were now indefinitely on hold and he had, in fact, just illegally tried to evict the new owner for the purpose of said renovations, those bonuses were null and void. His base salary was cut to the absolute legal minimum for a property manager of a building this size. It was a humiliating number. Then we got to his rent. His employee discount on Unit 4B was revoked, effective immediately. The new rent was set at double the market rate for a comparable, actually renovated unit in the area. The number I quoted made him physically flinch. "You can't charge me that. It's retaliation," he sputtered. "It's market rate," I said smoothly. "As you told me when you raised my rent 20% last year. The market is the market. You're welcome to vacate with 30 days notice if you can't afford it. I hear there are nice places further out." Using his own words, against him was a spicy little garnish on the dish of his defeat. He was trapped. He couldn't afford to move. Not on his newly slashed salary. He was stuck, paying through the nose to live in the building he'd lorded over, working for the man he'd evicted. But my work wasn't done. Revenge is best when it's systemic. I called a meeting of all the remaining tenants, the ones who hadn't been scared out yet. I stood in the shabby courtyard, no longer a fellow victim, but the unexpected savior. I introduced myself simply. My name is Kai. I used to live in 3C. As of today, I own this building. The shock was palpable, then it erupted into cheers and bewildered applause. I laid out the new order. All pending evictions for renovation were cancelled, effective immediately. Rent for current tenants would be frozen for 2 years. The renovation fund would be converted into a legitimate repair fund. The dripping faucets, the faulty wiring, the broken mailboxes, they would be fixed, not used as an excuse to drive people out. I saw the weight lift off of people's shoulders. Mrs. Gapel and Tua, who'd been terrified of ending up in her son's basement, the college students in 1F, scraping by. They weren't line items anymore. They were my community. Finally, I turned to the physical symbol of the old regime, the empty, half-gutted apartments. I didn't hire a luxury contractor. I hired Mr. Rossetti, the retired Italian carpenter who lived in 5B and was always complaining about the shoddy workmanship. I put him in charge, with a proper budget and a crew of his choosing. Real repairs. Honest work. As for Marcus, he became a ghost in his own office. I saw him sometimes skulking through the halls, avoiding eye contact. The power dynamic wasn't just flipped, it was atomized. He was a living cautionary tale to every other property shark. The quiet tenant in the cheap apartment might just be the wolf you never saw coming. I moved back into my apartment. Not as a tenant, as the owner. The first thing I did was finally fix that leaky shower. It took me 20 minutes and a $5 washer. I am Kai. My landlord evicted me to renovate, so I bought the entire complex. I didn't just double his rent, I dismantled his world and rebuilt it according to my own code. The greatest revenge isn't just making them pay. It's proving their entire understanding of the game was fatally flawed. They saw a disposable renter. I was the silent variable they never accounted for in their greedy little algorithm. And my final output was their unconditional surrender.